how to overcome fear, how to even deal with anxiety and possibly even panic attacks if you suffer from them. Well, fear is a simple self-defense mechanism that we have in our body, and it dates back from a day and age where we actually needed it on a daily basis. That's a time 200 to 300 years ago where we were walking around on this earth and would actually meet wild animals on a daily basis, unfriendly human beings who were out to kill us on a daily basis, where there weren't any laws and the police and houses that could protect us against nature and the bad things that were happening. But we still have those self-defense mechanisms because our bodies have not evolved quickly enough. The problem is that the self-defense mechanism of fear will often launch when it is not necessary at all. And it does not know the difference between you standing in front of a real tiger or standing in front of this little fella. And it does not know that the fear is not needed, etc. If you follow the negative thoughts, the fearful and anxious thoughts that you then have at that moment, to your body it will be as if you are in a true life and death situation. And that creates all of those negative feelings that we do not want to have. If you let that go on, you might actually get panic attacks and get a whole range of problems because of it. And I've had a lot of personal experience with that, in fact, because I've had panic attacks for more than 14 years. I developed agoraphobia, a social phobia. I was afraid of everything. I had a lot of fear of the fear. I was anticipating future events, afraid of what was coming up. I needed to find excuses to say no. I was a fearful little fellow, but I was able to overcome my panic attacks in 2004, a long time ago, and I've been helping people since 2005 to stop their panic attacks as well. That's my day job. I've been able to help thousands of people all over the world. And that is because I found out that fear, anxiety, and panic attacks are caused by our way of thinking, by that self-defense mechanism that we have that actually fires off when it's not necessary. See, our mind will try to avoid pain. Everything that is pain will be avoided. Our mind will do more to avoid pain than it will to gain pleasure. That's interesting, because that means if you ever were somewhere where you had an anxious feeling, where you had a panic attack, where you were not at ease, your mind will remember this and will actually tell you the next time that you get into a similar or the same situation, it will tell you, whoa, this is dangerous. You might need to get out of here. I will give you some fear. I will launch the self-defense mechanism so you can get out of here. And when you're anticipating that moment, the fear will already come because the simple thought of that will be enough. That's because your body is trying to avoid pain, right? But this is a very strange system in our body, and it's a system that we can stop. Did you ever run in trouble on your computer where one of the programs you were working with became unresponsive? It said not responding. Well, what you need to do then is push Ctrl-Alt-Delete to open a task manager to look at the processes, to find the one that says not responding, or to find the one that's sucking away all of the energy, all of the memory, for instance, and you say end task, boom, and it stops. Well, the same needs to be done in our bodies because anxiety and fear are simple processes that are running, and we need to end task, end the process. Now, I make it sound simple. Obviously, this is not that easy. It took me a couple of months to totally overcome my fears and my panic attacks and to stop my panic attacks, but it was worth it because more than 10 years later, I can still automatically live my life without fear trying to hold me back. And that is because you need to change the way we think about things. For instance, if you need to do something in the future and you're thinking about that event, what your mind will do is that it will launch the negative radar. That's the radar that starts to look for possible dangers, and the negative voice will come up and will say things like, yeah, but what if? What if this happens? What if you lose control and that happens? What if this? What if that? What if that? What if that? What if that? As if you're working for the CIA, your mind is going to come up with all of the possible outcomes and what you need to do in that case. But that's dangerous. We cannot stop this. This is again one of the self-defense mechanisms in our body that we often need. But if you let it run for itself and if you follow those what if things, the problem is your mind will start to visually imagine those bad things actually happening. And this will raise anxiety. This might give you panic attacks for a very simple reason. Whatever we vividly imagine in our minds feels real to the body. Our mind does not know the difference between what's real, what we're currently seeing, and what we're vividly imagining. That's why a nightmare can feel so real, why you can be soaked in sweat and really feel really bad when you wake up. You see, that's because of the imagination. So what you will need to do is when the mind goes into the negative mode, when the negative anxious or anxiety process starts to run, you need to push it down or stop it altogether by making the conscious decision to do so. That's emotional intelligence. That's something that during the 14 years where I had my panic attacks that I was unaware of that I could actually do. I needed to train that power, and it's something that you need to train in. Let me prove that. I'm going to take my whiteboard in a second, and there will be 4 words on my whiteboard. What I want you to do is to read the color of the word out loud. So I need you to read the color of the word, okay? Here goes. Please read the colors of the words. Did you get in trouble? If you did this exercise correctly, this was easy. Red, blue, blue. Your mind will want to read red here, and here your mind will want to read blue. But that's not what I asked. I asked you to read the color out loud. Now the color is blue and the color is red. But our mind will always go for the easy thing. Our mind will always try to use the path of least resistance, the path that uses up the less or the least of our energy. And that's what happens during that exercise. It's called the Stroop test, S-T-R-O-O-P test. And this is really interesting because that shows that our mind immediately goes in a certain direction, but it also shows that we have the power to say, no, that's not the right direction. The exercise is different. I don't need to read red because it says red when the color is blue. So I need to step back and go into a different direction. Now this takes up a lot of energy and a lot of power. That's because these types of decisions are made in a part of the prefrontal cortex in our brain, and that's a part of our brain that uses up a whole lot of energy. It requires willpower and energy, but just like any muscle, it is something that we can train. When you go to the gym and you take something with a lot of weights, it's possible you can't even move them. But when you start to train that same movement with lesser weights and you get better at it, after a while you're able to pick up the heavy weight and move it as if it's nothing. Same goes for this. So at first what you'll need to do is retrain your mind and consciously decide to not always follow your emotion. Whenever you feel anxiety, whenever you're about to launch a panic attack, your mind thinks that you've just encountered a real tiger. What you need to do is realize that it's just one of these. It's not a real danger. Most often, when you look at everything that scares you, everything that you're anxious of, it is not something that will actually kill you. Some things that you do might actually be dangerous, but most of our fears are ungranted. I mean, we should not even have them. It's often whenever we step outside of our comfort circle, whenever you're about to do something new, your mind is going to go into the mode of, okay, so what if? What if I lose my job because of this? What if I lose money because of this? What if I lose my ego? What if people start to laugh with me? What if people think that I'm weak? What if I don't know what to say? What if? It's just because we're stepping outside of the comfort circle, and everything outside of the comfort circle, I'm sorry, English is not my native tongue. Everything outside of the comfort circle is really hard for our brain because it launches the anxious radar, the panic attack radar that comes up with all of the possible dangers. But we need to train our mind to consciously decide to step out of it. I hope this video gave you a couple of aha moments. If you want more of those, simply come to my website. I'll try to show the address somewhere in the screen right now. Come to my website, sign up to my free newsletter. That's a place where you can get more of these videos on a weekly basis. That'll give you a lot of aha moments. And if you have a problem with anxiety, panic attacks, or anxiety attacks, then you should definitely come to my website because I think I can help you. See you there.